go to heaven. That's when your sin nature will no longer be a problem in your life. The Apostle Paul talks about this independence, living as if we don't need God. In Romans chapter 7, I want you to see this. Romans chapter 7, he totally aligns with this principle. Romans chapter 7, beginning with verse 15. I'll just read with you up here this morning. Here we go. I do not understand what I do, for what I don't do, what I would like to do. Instead, I do what I hate. Man, why am I doing this, he's saying. Well, since what I do is what I don't want to do, this shows that I agree that the law is right. So I am really not the one who does this. Rather, it is the sin nature, that lives in me. Paul says, look, I get it. I'm just like you. And Paul must have really wrestled with this, because there were times he would say, look, I'm the chief of sinners. You know, if you let that sin nature just dwell in your mind, you can't defeat it, you can't get over it, it can bring you down. Now, I'm not saying you don't need to worry about it. I'm saying you need to recognize it, that it's real, and that you need to deal with it. And so when we falter, when we fall, we confess, we make it right, and we realign our lives with God. Does that testimony of Paul sound vaguely familiar to you? I know it is for me. Things I want to do, things I don't want to do, I struggle with back and forth. Why does this happen in our lives? Ultimately, what's the cure? Do we just give up and say, well, this is just who I am? I'll never be able to get past this. There's truth in that, but you don't have to continue in that same path. God will give you the strength through Christ to overcome those things. I've said this before. When I was in seminary, I remember looking at this guy, and he was really struggling with a particular area of his life, and I said, you know what? You don't have to do that. And he said, I don't want to do that. I just find myself always somehow going back to that. And I said, think about the power that lives in you. And I gave him that verse. Greater is he who is in us than he who is in the world. Greater is the one who's overcome sin and death and even hell itself living in you. You have that power. When you recognize you have that power in your life, you don't have to just settle for what your existence looks like. I think about the cure of this, or the cause of this situation, and people say, well, here I believe here's the cause. It's because I want my freedom. I want to be able to do what I want to do. That's the real cause. I want to be independent. I don't want people telling me how to live. I want to be the God of my life. Would you like to decide what's right and wrong in life? Yes. Wouldn't you like to make the rules? They're talking about the rules of the Olympics are changing. Did you hear that? That they're starting to crack down on the swimmers and what type of cap they can wear. It has to all be the same. And people are just wondering, like, why? Why does that matter, right? Or should you be allowed to take drugs? Why should that matter? If you're allowed to take drugs in society, why can't you take drugs in the Olympics? If you haven't heard this yet, it's happening. Well, that's our culture. We don't want rules. We want to make the rules. We want to define what's right and wrong in our own lives. We don't want anyone telling us what we should or should not do. That's called playing God. And it's man's oldest problem. If we can go to that next screen there, if you would. It's man's oldest problem. Continue on, if you would. Go on. Sorry. Next one. I think I got to catch up with two screens. Click two more. All right. Man's oldest problem is found in Genesis. One more screen, and we'll get caught up. Man's oldest problem found in Genesis chapter 3, right there, Adam and Eve. They wanted control. What did they want control of? They didn't want any restrictions. Satan, the tempter, comes to them and says, look, God's trying to keep something from you. You deserve it. Boy, that sounds like a commercial. You deserve it your way. You should have it your way. I mean, God says, look, You're in this flawless place, this garden. You could do anything you want. He only asked him just one thing. He said, if you'll just stay over, just don't bother that one tree right there. But everything else you can enjoy. You can do whatever you want. Now that's freedom, is it not? But because God said, stay away from that one tree, they felt like they didn't have their freedom. And Satan brings that temptation to them and says, you know what? You deserve this. In fact, if you do this, you could be God. You could be like God. And that's what we want oftentimes in life. We want to be in control. So what did they do? There's a road that goes over towards Disney down in Orlando. It's called the Beeline Expressway. That's exactly what Adam and Eve did. They jumped on the Beeline Expressway and went straight to that tree and committed that sin. That's what it was. It wasn't a mistake. It was a conscious decision to do and rebel against what God's authority is in their life. And why do we do that? Because we want control. It happens every day. Why do we do the things we do? Why do kids do the things they do? Because they want control. They don't want someone